Okay, welcome back everyone for another deep dive with us. And today we are diving into a pretty fascinating situation that's unfolding in South Africa right now. It involves President Cyril Ramaphosa, a visa policy that has sparked quite a bit of controversy.
hmm
And we're seeing a lot of public outcry, some people even calling for his resignation.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here is this policy at its core is actually intended to boost trade ties with Nigeria.
Yeah, it really is, exactly. And on the surface, I mean, you think, okay, strengthening trade, Nigeria, South Africa, this sounds like a good thing.
Sounds like a win-win, right?
Yeah, so why is it causing such a stir?
Yeah.
Well, to get to the bottom of this, we're going to be looking at some remarks made by ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula.
Hmm.
And just for those who might not be familiar, the ANC, the African National Congress, is the governing political party in South Africa.
Right, so this policy basically grants qualifying Nigerian businesses a 5-year multiple entry visa. The goal, of course, is to boost economic activity and cooperation between the two countries. But it seems to have really struck a nerve with some South Africans.
It definitely has.
Yeah.
And Mbalula, he didn't mince words. He called the criticism a failed attempt to sow chaos, driven by opportunists seeking only destruction.
That's some pretty strong language there. But I think this really speaks to some of the economic anxieties that are already simmering in South Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, the unemployment rate there is already quite high. It's hovering around 33%. And there's this perception among some that an influx of Nigerian businesses could end up exacerbating the competition for jobs and resources.
So, when we look at this through that lens, you can kind of start to see where those concerns might be coming from.
Exactly.
And how does, South Africa's history with immigration factor into this whole equation?
Well, South Africa has a complex history with immigration. I mean, marked by periods of openness, but also periods of tension. And this visa policy seems to be tapping into those pre-existing anxieties, particularly for those who are already feeling like their economic security is a bit precarious.
Yeah, so Mbalula's fiery rhetoric in this context starts to make a little bit more sense.
I think so. Yeah, exactly. By framing this criticism as an attack, not just on President Ramaphosa, but on the ANC itself, he's really trying to rally support, present a united front
Right.
and paint those who are raising concerns as these disruptive, almost, destructive forces. It's a classic political strategy when you think about it, to kind of deflect criticism and consolidate power.
Right, right. But is it effective? I mean, does this type of framing actually address the concerns that people are bringing up? The ANC has consistently emphasized their dedication to creating a better life for all, to national sovereignty. So how do these ideals square with a policy that some people see as potentially damaging their livelihoods?
That's a really good question. And I think it highlights the tension that can sometimes exist between political rhetoric and the realities on the ground.
Yeah.
The ANC's framing, it might resonate with their base, sure, but it doesn't necessarily negate those very real concerns that people are expressing.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing here is a really interesting dynamic playing out. You have this policy aimed at economic growth, a public that is struggling with these, deep-seated economic anxieties, and then a political party that's trying to navigate this very complex terrain.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, that's for sure.
It is.
And, it raises a really important question that I want to leave you with to consider.
Okay.
What do you think are going to be the long-term implications of this situation, not just within South Africa itself, but also for its relationships with other African nations? Could we see a ripple effect across the continent? It's definitely something to think about as we watch this all unfold.
Yeah, absolutely food for thought. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring.